Nick, 2021 is somehow 5 years ago. I don't like that. Hearing that seems not accurate, but it is. So we're going to look back 5 years in the past and see which games really hold up.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
I'm Mike.
We are the Brothers Murphy. That's right. We're talking about our favorite games from 2021. We like doing these kinds of like 5 years, 10 years lists. It's always, again, like technically 5 is no more round of a number than like a 3, right? It's just, but it's one of those things where it feels good, right? It's a decimal system, right? It feels very good. And so we like looking back. And 2021 was a really good year. There's some real big bangers that came out this year. Some of our favorite games. So we're going to go ahead and talk about our top 10 games from 2021.
First up today is going to be a game called Trio. This is a memory game. We always refer to it as sort of like a gamer's go fish. It's essentially you're looking for sets of 3 of the same number to be able to play down, but you have to use memory. So everyone's going to have a hand of cards that will be ordered from low to high. And on your turn, you can ask yourself or another player to essentially reveal their lowest card, so their leftmost card, or their highest card, their rightmost card. They can put it down on the table. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to reveal 3 of the same number without having another number show up. And if you get all 3, then you get to collect that set and you're one step closer to victory. So of course, if I'm hoping for 12s and someone reveals on the right, you know, I reveal 1 from my hand, because you can ask yourself, following the same rules. I reveal a 12, the next player reveals a 12, and the third player reveals, you know, their highest card's a 10, for example. I've now failed that challenge, and everyone picks their cards back up. But we've all seen what, you know, people's rightmost card is in that case. We have 2 12s and a 10. The nice thing is that first player I asked that they, you know, had a 12, they might have the other 12. They might have 2. So on their turn, they're like, I know you have the 12. I'm going to ask you for a 12, and then I'm going to ask myself twice, and now I've completed the challenge. There's also going to be a number of cards that are in the center of the table that you can just decide to flip up, and that's you like making an ask of the table. So there's also a memory element of that, of like which cards are where in the center of the table. It's really, really fun because it's just kind of like a simple idea, like try to remember where the cards are and stuff. But, you know, for our late 30s brains, that becomes difficult sometimes. And so I really enjoy the kind of breeziness of it, but the chances to kind of feel clever if you can kind of track what's going on.
Number 9 is going to be Final Girl. Final Girl, it's man, what a phenomenon Final Girl is. Final Girl is very, very cool. This is a solo-only game where you are the final girl, the kind of stereotype in a horror movie. A lot of times there's like one girl left over and she's the one who finally kills the big baddie, right? It's kind of this big thing in horror, but it's kind of taken this and become all of these games, all these Final Girl games. So Final Girl is that, where you are taking on the final girl. There's a whole bunch of different Final Girls you can choose from. They all have slightly different abilities and stuff like that. And then you're going into like a horror movie scape, basically. You are going to go into a location. All the locations are going to be different, and they're going to work slightly differently. And then there's also going to be a big baddie, the killer, you know, the enemy, the person that you are fighting as the final girl. And there's a whole bunch of these different baddies as well. And the cool thing about this game is completely interchangeable. So you can take any final girl and you can play in any location with any big baddie. You can play with any of them. It's really, really cool the way you can mix and match all of this. And the very first one is kind of the classic. It's called Camp Happy Trails. Camp Happy Trails is the classic like summer camp, and the villain is like Hans the Butcher. He's got like this like pig mask on, kind of like your Jason Voorhees type of killer at a summer camp, like the most classic horror movie trope, right? And the cool thing is as they've made these other Final Girls, every single one, they're literally called like movies. Like the first one is Camp Happy Trails. That's the movie. This is the baddie. But there are all these other ones they've done, and they're all like, not officially any of these things, but there's like a Hellraiser one. There's like a Thing, the Thing one. There's like an Aliens one. There's, every single horror thing you can think of. There's a Final Girl for that, which again is its own movie. So it has Final Girls in it, it has a location, and it has a baddie. And again, you can mix any of those up. But one of the cool things about this as well is like you are a Final Girl. There's just one of you. So this is a solo only game. I think technically you can co-op it, but like it's solo game. And so it's this really tough solo game, and you can just mix and match as you please. It's really, really hard, but it's really, really fun. And it's just got from like the production to the theming to the art to everything top to bottom. This is just one of the coolest games ever made.
Next up is going to be Boonlake. This is from Alexander Pfister. This is a game all about kind of building out this tableau of cards as you are discovering, these kind of long forgotten lands, and you're building kind of your townships, your cities, your settlements onto spaces. So this is a kind of a large action follow mechanism kind of game where on a turn the active player will choose from these kind of action strips an action they want to take. It'll have a main action they can do, and there will always be something for the most part that other players, and usually that player as well, can also do in addition to that action. That's something I always enjoy in board games, where I get to engage with the game even if it's not my main turn. I can always kind of be doing things. And it has a nice flow to it. Nick and I really enjoy this one, where at the beginning of the game, there's a couple of tiles revealed, but most of the board is undiscovered. So you can discover spaces, put them down, often gaining bonuses along the way. And then those tiles, as they're placed, are going to be spaces for you to put out your cattle, build up your buildings, upgrade your buildings, and kind of build up as you go. As you do this, you are often playing cards as well. And these cards have instant abilities, persistent things like discounts and stuff for different types of cards, and a lot of end game scoring cards. And there's multiple copies of kind of the same ability across your different cards. So you have the chance to stack abilities and really kind of focus in on an area. So I might have cards that give me bonus points at the end or money in game for every time I place a cattle. So if I can stack up a bunch of those, I might really try to focus on that action type and try to maximize what I gain out of those cards that I've been building. So I really enjoy the kind of tableau of cards that comes up. You'll end up with a whole bunch of cards in play and a bunch of different ways that you can sort of, again, balance in-game benefits, end-game scoring, and there are interim scorings throughout the game. You want to, of course, try to do things that are going to maximize your income and all that during those sessions to be able to kind of build up this huge engine.
Number 7 is going to be Cubitos. I freaking love Cubitos. Cubitos is great. Cubitos for me was kind of like a Quacksilver killer. I still like Quacks, don't get me wrong, I'll still play it, but I would much rather play Cubitos, and there's a lot of similarity between the two. But this is a racing game. This is a game where you are these like weird cube people. I don't know, it's all dice based, and so all of the characters of the game are like these, like one's like a cube pineapple, one's like a cube llama. They're all like cubes. It's very odd. It's a weird world, but I like it. But nonetheless, this is a racing game where you're going to have some kind of course, and you're basically trying to be the first one to finish that course. That's how you win the game. And you do that by rolling dice, and it's a push your luck game. And so you're basically taking on your dice a certain amount, and that amount can increase throughout the game. Taking your amount, you're rolling your dice. And on these dice, there's going to be blank faces and then some faces that have something on them. But it's always going to be like there's like one face with something on it and then 5 blanks. It's a lot of the best ratio is a 50-50, 3 and 3, right? That's the best one of the whole game. So you're basically rolling these dice, and you roll a mix of blanks and faces, and basically you're good to go on the first roll. But then once you've rolled 3 faces, you then can bust, which means if you basically At that point, you will lock in those faces, and then you'll take everything else and then roll them. And then after you have 3 faces, if you roll and you roll all blanks, you bust. You bust and you're basically not going to get anything. And so it's that thing where it's like that real push your luck, where you're like, oh, I've only rolled 2 faces, screw it, I can't bust yet. And then once you roll that 3rd face, now you're like, okay, now every single time I roll, if I roll any blank, if I roll all blanks, I'm going to bust. And you're like, I'm rolling 10 dice. What are the odds? It's like, well, all those 10 dice have only one side of the face on them. And so it's very easy to bust in this game. So I like push your luck games, and I like the dice rolling aspect of this game. But then as you're rolling those dice, generally they're going to have money on them, and they're going to have little feet. The little feet are how you move your little person through. That's how you win the race. And the money allows you to buy dice. Again, kind of like Quack's-Quedlinburg style, where there are a bunch of different kinds and color of dice, and then there's a power that goes along with that die. And the cool thing is each die, like the white die, which is like the llama die, the white die has like 4 or 5 different powers that can go along with it. So every game you just choose a new power, and now that white die has that power. Because each of those dies will have some kind of face. So like, you know, there's like a little cat die, and the cat die, I'm sorry, that's the llama die, it's a little cat die. And if the cat face comes up, it then does that little power, right? And so it's cool because you can really, really mix up the game a lot. There's a whole bunch of different boards, so you can like have different races and different tracks and stuff like that. It's just really, really fun. It kind of takes I feel like you have more agency than you do in like a Quack's-Quedlinburg, and I just really like the weird theme of this. I like rolling dice. I like push your luck games with dice because all dice rolls are kind of like push your luck in a weird way. I just really, really like it. But I like these kinds of games where it's like, here's all these pieces, but then here's like 5 powers that can go along with those pieces. So every game you play can be completely different. It's just really, really good. And Cubitos is like the kind of like racing push your luck game for me.
Next up is going to be a game called Dice Miner. This is a, simple dice drafting game where you are going to build this kind of pyramid of dice on this sort of slanted mountain board, and that is the mountain. And then you are going to take turns drafting dice out of that mountain as you are sort of mining it as your little dwarves and things. And there's going to be all types of different dice. There are kind of tunnel dice, which you're going to be building runs of 1 to 5 with. There are dice with these kind of rubies on it, which are just going to be straight up points, but the person who has the most rubies gets double those points. There's hazard dice, which will hurt you unless you get tools that block them, and they turn those negatives into positives. And magic dice to help you kind of re-roll and stuff before you go to score all your stuff. What's really kind of fun is that on every die type, one of the faces shows a beer. And if you draft a beer, or you have one from a previous roll that you did, you can gift that to another player, and then you can draft 2 things from the mountain, and you have a little more flexibility of where you can draft from. So you end up with the same amount of dice that way, but there's this kind of like fun, changing hands with these dice, and when the person gets that beer die, they roll it, which will become whatever symbol is rolled. It could be another beer. And so you're trying to do this to build up these really awesome sets for yourself to score as many points as possible. The best thing about this game is after the first round, the whole mountain is depleted. You score, you take all the dice that you have, you roll them, and that becomes your kind of new trove. Then you refill the mountain and you start drafting again. So you already have a set aside handful of dice. And then in the 3rd round, you now have 2 rounds worth of dice. So you can really kind of build things up. There's a great kind of like ramp to the scoring in this game that's really satisfying either time, especially if you play it 2-player, because you use the same amount of dice, but there's only 2 people sharing them, so you get a whole huge horde of dice and you get these massive scores.
A game has been murdered, and it's been murdered by the Crew Mission Deep Sea, because for us, the Crew Mission Deep Sea completely murdered the Crew Quest Planet 9. I'll still play the Crew Quest for Planet 9, but at this point, like, I'm just kind of like, what's the point? I would rather play the Crew Mission Deep Sea over it, because I just think it's better, which is kind of crazy, because when the Crew Quest Planet 9 were like, how could you possibly make this better? And then they went and did it with the Crew Mission Deep Sea. But nonetheless, the 2 crews are very, very similar in terms of how they play, where they are cooperative trick-taking games, where every single scenarios, a bunch of little scenarios in the game. Every single scenario, everyone's gonna have a specific goal. So that goal might be like, oh, I need to win the 2 and the 7 of pink. That is how I would complete my goal. So, you know, if someone puts out the 2 of pink, everyone knows, oh, we need to make sure Nick gets that trick so he can complete his goal. Everyone has a goal. You will win that specific round if everyone completes their goal. That alone is incredible. I love it so much. I love cooperative trick-taking games, especially when they have different goals like that. I think it's great. Now, here's the main difference of the Crew Mission Deep Sea, which came out in 2021, and why it's so much better. The Crew Quest for Planet 9 had these goals and everything like that, but those goals didn't always scale super great. Because there are certain goals that were like significantly easier at 3 people than they were at 5 people. There are certain ones that were much, much easier at 5 than they were at 3. So sometimes, depending on the goals that you would get, you would just be in a situation where like, this is basically going to be impossible. So now what they do in the Crew Mission Deep Sea is every goal card on its back basically has a difficulty level based on the player count. So you're like, oh, this one at 2 players or 3 players is like a difficulty 1, but at 5 players is a difficulty 3 or whatever they actually are. And so each of the scenarios you're basically going to do, they say like, get this difficulty amount in goal cards. And so difficulty amount might be like 6. So you're like, okay, the first card is a 3 difficulty, so that's 3 of our 6, and then the next 3 are 1s. And you're like, okay, cool, now we've reached 6 difficulty, we're gonna divvy up those goal cards, and then that's what we have. And so what that does is it scales the game, it scales the difficulty of the game in a way that just works so well. And so it kind of takes out the only problem with the Crew Quest for Planet 9 was the fact that sometimes certain goals were basically impossible to player count you were at. And in this way, you're like, oh, if you have, like, say your difficulty is, total difficulty is supposed to be 3, you get one of those 3 cards, well, that's the only goal you have then because you've met the difficulty threshold. And so now you can only have to focus on that goal. Or it might be a situation where everyone has multiple goals because they were all just super easy at your player count. But it scales the game in a way that's just so good. And it's gotten to the point where I'm like, I would always play Mission Deep Sea over Quest for Planet 9, even though they're like 90% the same game. That little change makes it so much better that I'll just never go back to the old one.
Next up is going to be Cascadia. This is one of our most played games since it came out in 2021. I know for a lot of other people, this game has gotten a lot of table time. This is still one of our go-to kind of, you know, lighter weight, breezy games. This is a tile placement and token placement game where you are gonna draft a paired set of a tile and a token, an animal token, and the tile will show 1 or more landscape types on it. And you're gonna be adding it to this kind of tableau. And the kind of rule is that you add your tile anywhere that's, you know, next to another tile. And then you can place the animal token you draft on any tile in your tableau that shows that animal. There's like hawks and foxes, elk, bears, and salmon. And they all want to be arranged in different ways to score points. So you're going to be building up these, you know, kind of runs of salmon or groups of bears in different pairs and things like that throughout the game. And you're hoping to build a tableau of large areas of the same terrain type. You don't have to match things, but if you can build a big old mountain range, that will be beneficial to you at the end of the game. And what's really fun is from game to game, the kind of scoring conditions for the animals will change. They'll be similar to each other. Like the salmon, you always want to kind of build a run, like a loose line of them. But they're going to change from game to game. So it sort of changes what things are valuable, how you want to focus, how you want to build out your tableau. So I think it hits a really nice level of like puzzliness. It's very appealing looking with best Sobel art. But there's enough kind of, it's easy to get into. Like the turn structure is very simple. So I think that's what makes this game really kind of approachable, really playable. Even if you've had a long day and you're tired, you've probably got enough brain power for a Cascadia. And so that one keeps this game coming back all these years later.
Number 3 is going to be a silly little party game called So Clover. So Clover is probably our favorite party game. it's just one of those games that works every single time with any group we're playing it with, and it's just so good. This is a word kind of clue association game. Many of these kind of games come out like a Just One or a Jinxo, which is nominated for the Spiele this year. There's a lot of these kind of word associated games where you're trying to get people to guess things based off of words. But So Clover just does it in such a good way, where everyone is going to get a dry erase like Clover board. And this Clover board has space for 4 cards in it because it's a 4-leaf Clover. And so you're basically going to put these cards in there, basically a set of 2 by 2. And that means that every one of these Clovers is going to have 2 clues attached to it, because these little square cards have a word, a word, a word, and a word. So they have 4 words on them, and you kind of randomly shuffle up some cards and put those 4 cards in there, which means every part of your 4-leaf Clover has 2 random words associated to that part of the Clover. So those words could be like, there's a couch right there, a couch and light, couch and light. So you then have to write a clue in that part of the Clover that will point people to couch and light. I don't know what that would be, couch and light. I'll give a very bad clue. Say like living room. Living rooms generally have lights and they generally have couches, right? Not probably the best. I probably could have thought it was better if it wasn't on the spot. But nonetheless, that could be the clue that I write there. And then you go to the other Clover, that's going to have 2 random words, and you write a clue that points to those 2 words. And then boom, you do that all 4 times, and then you have to take the cards out of your Clover and then add in a random 5th card, shuffle those up, and then you give the Clover to your teammates, everyone's on the same team, and you go reassemble it, put it back together based off of the clues I gave you. And again, keep in mind that each one of those cards has 4 clues on it. So even though like the one that has couch on it, they might be like, ooh, but couch works over here. And they basically have to put your Clover back together, including hopefully not choosing the card that was just added in randomly, which sometimes has a really, really good option for one of your clues. And it's just really, really fun. It's just, again, it's fun to have to think of those clues, because again, a lot of times like sometimes the 2 words that are together, you're like, oh, this is the easiest clue of my life. And sometimes they're so difficult where you're like, these have nothing to do with each other. It's really, really fun. There's so much discussion that goes on in the game as you're putting these back together, and you're sitting there just being like, that's not it, that's not it. It's just very, very fun. I love So Clover so much. It's my favorite party game, or one of my favorites for sure. Definitely my favorite like word association game like this. I just think it's a masterpiece, and it never gets old. Time and time again, we played it hundreds of times, and it's just the best.
Next up is going to be Imperium Classics. Really for us, the entire Imperium line. There's Imperium Classics and Imperium Legends, which came out around this time, and then Imperium Horizons, and all these games are cross-compatible. This is a civilization deck building game from David Turczi and Nigel Buckle. And in this game, you are going to have a civilization. You're going to have your own specific deck of cards to begin with, some of which will be in your hand. Other ones are going to be discovered as you go. And then there's a bunch of commons cards, which are going to be different regions you're exploring, different kind of nation states you're encountering, uncivilized cards, civilized cards, and on and on and on. And you are going to be building a point engine with the kind of cards that you play, which kind of things, you tuck away and put into your, play area in front of you, like with region cards. And every civilization is going to have a kind of different engine to it. It's going to be its own little puzzle. And I think that's what keeps this game really fun for us, is like, between all 3 versions of the game, I don't know, there's probably like 40 civilizations now, and they all have their own kind of vibe. And so this is a game that we didn't play at first in 2021, but since that time, we have gotten all the different sets, made, organizers for everything. And it's a game that we love to play. It's also fantastic solo. You can play solo, just sort of playing, the game by yourself, or you can play against a kind of bot of one of the other civilizations that runs itself. So it gives you, a high level of challenge to overcome, and you can really explore each civilization a number of times as you try to unlock, their engine, essentially. How do I get things online, get things built up, and start generating points with, this particular faction versus that particular faction? There's just a ton to explore. So I imagine this game for us is going to continue to be one that we love and explore, because we've not played all the factions yet, and we have mastered even fewer of them.
Number one is probably going to be pretty obvious. If you've watched any of our top 10s, you know what kind of games we like. And also, just look at the BGG Top 100. This is going to be Arc Nova. Arc Nova is enormous. It is, I think, number 2 on BGG right now. I personally think it's going to end up being at number 1. I think it and Brass Birmingham are going to fight for a while, but I do think it'll take it over. Man, Arc Nova is just so good. I mean, this game took the world by storm and just has not let up. It's always in like the hotness. It's always hovering around the hotness. On our Best of BGG videos we do once a month here, we talk about the most played games of the month. It's always in the most played games of the month, which is crazy because it's a big, long game. Arc Nova is a masterpiece. It's just what it is. Arc Nova is a game where you are building out a zoo. You have your own little zoo board, and you're basically getting these animal cards and then playing these animal cards and putting them in little enclosures in your zoo, which is a little bit of a polyomino kind of thing going on. And that's mostly what you're trying to do. And those animals are going to give you 2 things. They're going to give you appeal, which is going to sell tickets. Appeal is one way you can score, but they also can give you conservation. Conservation is another way you can score, and you basically have 2 markers on the score track, and they're going on opposite ways, and the game will end once someone crosses those markers. Again, the conservation one and the appeal one, cross it Raja the Ganji style. It's great. But then on top of that, it's got this really great action selection system where you have these 5 action cards, and each turn you are going to choose one of those action cards to use. And basically, the farther right they are on your little tableau board, the stronger they're going to be. Strength 1, 2, 3, 4, and then strength 5. So if you put the rightmost one, if you use the action card in the rightmost slot, that's going to be a strength 5 of whatever that action is. And those actions could be playing these animal cards we talked about, building these enclosures because the animals have to have an enclosure to go into. You can do a sponsor one, which will play these sponsor cards, which will usually give you some kind of ongoing ability. You can do one to draw more cards. Whole bunch of different stuff, and then you do one which adds a little bit of worker placement into the game. It's called the association action. You can kind of go put your worker out and do a little bit of bonus stuff over here as well. But it's basically this big engine builder. This is the kind of game that's got like a whole bunch of different mechanics you can see. There's like a little bit of polyomino stuff, a lot of engine building, some of that like card action row stuff. A little bit of worker placement, whole bunch of different stuff. But this is kind of a Terraforming Mars type deck building game. Engine building game where you're putting these cards out, these animal cards, these sponsor cards, and they're going to have tags all over them. And on top of that, there are all these different other kinds of cards or other animals and stuff that will require you to have a certain amount of these tags in play to then play that card or to then do that thing. It's so good. This is one of those games that like is the absolute epitome of like, not every game needs to do something new. Like, not every game needs to think of a new mechanic or a new this or new that. You can take things that exist already in board games or in other board games or in the general board game industry and just put them into a really, really good game. You can take a little bit from this, a little bit from this, a little bit from this, and make a new game and make a masterpiece. And that's what Arc Nova is. Arc Nova does nothing new, absolutely nothing new, but it does it in such a good way that it's become the number 2 game of all time. I think eventually probably going to be number 1. Arc Nova is one of my favorite games of all time. It's incredible. I love it so much. And it had to be number 1 on this list. You knew it was going to be here.
So those are the games that we think really are still very relevant, hold up, are very much played by us and seemingly a lot of other people.
Right.
But let us know, what are your favorite games from 2021? Which things did you buy back then or discovered after the fact that you are still playing just as much today?
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that's really useful.
Yeah.
Games pop up and they're hot for a minute all the time, but what games stand the test of time? Arc Nova obviously definitely does that. That's
Clearly
like a clear number 1 for
It's
us.
sticking around for at least a little bit longer.
I think so. So let us know for you, what are the games that are really standing the test of time, are still hitting the table? Get those in the comments so we can see some suggestions from other people. It's fun to look back instead of always focus on the hotness. And let's see what we get into next time. I am Mike. I lost my way there a little bit. Don't worry about it.
Have a great day,
I'll see you
everybody.
next time.